Good day. We are going to discuss stock valuation, and we need to know whose perspective, no? So, whose perspective are we in chapter 6 and in chapter 7, both of which are valuation and it is the issuer's point of view. So when you're the issuer, you are actually the seller. Okay? You can also take a look at the uh, perspective of the buyer. Okay? So if you're the issuer, you will be taking the position of um, debtor and owner. Okay? Or we say what you owe, no, and what you own. And if you are the buyer, this will be you are the creditor, you are the investor. Okay? So that's the perspective when it comes to who. And looking at the model, asset is equal to liability plus equity. Um, this is the side, no, the asset side, where you are the buyer, and this one would be liability will be the side when you are the seller, and the equity. Kasi nga sabi natin, we need to, di ba, supply, no? We need to have supply of funds when we issue stocks, when we issue bond, no? And likewise, when we discussed bond valuation before, we are looking at the market value of bond, no? And why are we looking at the market value of bond? Because we have to know at which point will the buyer be willing to exchange with what we are selling. Likewise, it would be the same with stocks. Okay? So what are our learning objectives? Our learning objectives are, the first one would be, there's a need for us to differentiate between debt and equity, which partly we have introduced already. Then we will discuss the features of both common and preferred stock. So in this video, these are the learning goals that I am going to discuss. No? After that, we will go to the processes of how you issue. So if it is issue in this particular case, we know that you are selling. No? But we will be focusing on the first two in our discussion. Okay? And what else? Then we can start now with the discussion on the difference between debt and equity, of which we can actually show in, no, in your basic accounting equation. Okay? If I am the debtor, because it is a perspective of the issuer, and I am the owner, okay? Then, what's the nature? Normally, the type of relationship that we have here is temporary, and this one is permanent. Why would it be temporary and permanent? Because if you're the debtor, remember, when it comes to time, okay, so let's talk about time. It will be fixed because you have maturity, right? This one, you know if it is 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, di ba? If it is with liability. But with equity, di ba, there will be no maturity. See, when you issue stocks, wala naman siyang maturity date. Pagka nangutang ka, di ba, talaga namang alam mo kailangan mong magbayad, no? Whether it be short term or long term, of which they are going to have claim doon sa asset mo. Ang pambayad mo dito sa debtor mo, magagaling sa asset. At ano pa? Of course, if it is with your debtor, you are going to have, what are the type of payments? It would be pag liability, interest. And if it is pag equity, it will be dividend. Okay? In addition to that, no? If the type of relationship that I have is temporary and permanent, which actually relates to whether does it have maturity or no maturity, would it have an impact to the supply of funds? Paano siya magkakaroon ng impact sa supply of funds? This one, you need to continuously, if you are the firm, no? Remember, we are looking at the perspective of the firm. Don't you know that this one, yeah, the type of relationship is temporary, but the debtor is more demanding. Bakit siya mas demanding? Kasi yung klase ng relasyon nyo dito, para mo lang siyang fling. Siya si fling mo, eto si number 1 mo. Kasi nga permanent type of relationship. Bakit mas demanding si debtor kesa kay owner? Because when it comes to liquidation, in terms of bankruptcy, who has the priority when it comes to payment? The debtor, hindi si owner. Or, kahit nga you are not yet liquidating, yung sa normal operation nyo lang, hindi ba ang interest regularly paid? Sa gusto mo, babayaran mo yan. Fixed payment yan eh. Kaya nga ang tawag natin sa pag nag-issue ka ng debt security, these are fixed payment. No? These are, if you are naman the buyer, ang tawag doon, fixed income. No? So, pag dividend kasi, if you don't have an income, you don't have to pay. Or, I won't say the word pay, but you don't have to issue dividend. No? Declare dividend if there is no income. However, with interest, with income or not, you need to pay because these are commitment, no? Legal obligation. Now, what else? So let's take a look at the other slide. You are given here, voice sa management. Of course, you don't have any voice because the type of relationship that you have is temporary and your position is you are the debtor. Or even if, no, you're the creditor, do you have the voice? None. And this one, kasi, 'di ba, yung doon sa position natin, alam niyo naman na ito yung sa buyer at ito yung sa seller. Na dito meron kang expense sa interest. Dito, at expense it affects the income statement, okay? And then this one, it would be dividend, okay? And this would affect what? The balance sheet under the stockholders equity section in your retained earnings. If you're the buyer, this will be income, no? And of course, it will affect your income statement. Whether you are the buyer of debt security and equity security, okay? The interest that you receive from the debtor will be an interest income, and the dividend that you receive from the equity that you buy will be a dividend income. Okay, it will form part of your passive income. And so, that's why it will affect the income statement if you are the buyer. Okay? Now, so dito, this perspective is we are looking at the supply side, of which it would be you're the seller. Okay? Now, you see, kanina pinag-usapan natin claims on income and asset, why it is senior. Kasi whether you like it or not, you have to pay the interest. 'Di ba? Pero dito, pag wala ka, tsaka kaya tinawag itong residual. 'Di ba? Residual interest or residual owners. Kasi after mong masatisfy yung interest, that's the only time. Or after you were able to satisfy all your creditor, that's the only time that you can pay the dividend or issue dividend or declare dividend. Kasi yung pay, issue, magkaiba kasing date rather. So, that's why when you say on claim on income, priority ang debt. Kaya nga residual, residue, pag may natira, o di meron ka. Okay? And of course, we know that, kaya nga tinawag na temporary type of relationship. Okay, alam mo kung hanggang kailan ang relasyon nyo. O dito, pwedeng infinite. Diba? Yan, kapag ka sa equity. Kasi transferable naman ang ownership. Diba? Pag ayaw mo ng karelasyon, benta mo. And you see, sabi dito, deductible, hindi. Bakit nga? It affects the income statement. This one, it affects the balance sheet. Interest affects income statement. Dividend affects the balance sheet because it is in the retained earnings section. Okay. So, what else? Yan. Diniscuss lang dito yung detail ng voice of management. Sinabi na sa inyo na owner nga kasi pag stockholder. Okay? Or if you are sa perspective ng creditor, so dito, you are looking at, you're the buyer. Diba? The buyer. Kasi owner, creditor. Okay. And of course, if you're the owner, you have the voting rights. No? And That is with regards to equity. Ito yung perspective ng buyer. No? And kita nyo naman class, debt holders do not receive voting privileges. We know that already. Diba? Kasi meron lang naman kayo contractual obligation. Siyempre, pag umutang dapat merong dokumento. Ganon din naman pagka-owner, but more so pagka-creditor. Kasi fling mo lang yan, anytime, pwede kang iwanan yan. Fling na nga, demanding pa, diba? O, yan. Then, ano pa after the boys? O, yan, yung details ng claims on income. Okay? In-explain dito that pag may kita ka talaga sa ayaw at sa gusto mo, una mong babayaran yung mga kung kanino ka may utang. Okay? Kay creditor. Okay. Then, anong sabi? Permanent talaga ang equity. So, I'm just reiterating what we have discussed previously. Dahil, transferable ang ownership eh. Pag ayaw na nung bumili ng stock mo, pwede niyang ibenta ulit. Diba? Hindi mawawala. Tsaka wala namang maturity. Diba? Yun. At hindi mo kailangan, wala kang babayaran. Pagdating doon sa, wala naman kasi siyang principal. Diba? Then, we already look at the tax issue. We know that if it is, doon tayo sa perspective ng buyer. Okay? Pag buyer ka ng debt o di creditor ka, meron kang tax cost. Pag seller ka ng debt, okay, o di debtor, meron kang tax benefit. Ha? Bakit, ma'am? Kasi, hindi ba ito income? Hindi ba ito expense? The higher the income, the more tax. And the higher the expense, your tax will be lowered. Siyempre, habang tumataas kita mo, di tumataas ang tax mo. At habang tumataas ang gastos mo, bababa ang tax mo. Kaya ganon, tax benefit at saka tax cost. So you see, sa perspective ng may pera, the one who has excess fund, the one who can invest, nagdadalawang isip ka na bumili ng debt, security. At kung ako naman ang seller, ang gusto ko, mag-issue ng debt. On the other hand, okay, doon tayo sa equity. Buyer, seller. Diba? So if I'm the buyer of the equity, then I will be the owner. I'll be the investor. Diba? And if I'm the seller, I'll just be called the issuer. Okay? And if I am the owner of, so this will be asset side. Diba? So it will be my investment in stock. This will be liability side, and this will be the equity side. Okay? If I am a buyer of stock, what will I receive? Income. So I will have tax. Diba? Cost. And if I'm the issuer, there will be no tax. How come? If I am the buyer, I will have a tax cost. The reason that you will have a tax cost is because, diba, it will be an income. O edi, kung income to, di ba dividend income? O di, the higher the income, the higher the tax. Eh pag seller ako, di ba sabi natin, it will be at saan siya nakalagay? Stockholders equity sa retained earnings. Sa balance sheet, dito sa income statement, dito sa balance sheet. O di, there is no tax. Okay? So, parehas naman pala na yung kung ako ay issuer, parehas palang beneficial when it comes to perspective ng tax. Kasi pag nag-issue ako ng debt security, mababawasan tax ko kasi may interest expense na pang bawas dun sa lahat ng kinita. Samantalang kapag ako ay creditor, matataksan ako kasi tumanggap ako ng kita. Diba? Ganon din naman kapag ako ay investor ng stock. Klaro yun? Okay. So, nasa sayo yun. Ang tanong lang ay, saan mas magiging mababa ang tax cost ko? Diba? May mga senaryo na ang dividend income na tatanggapin mo, pwede siyang exempt sa tax. Okay? Exempt. Hindi non-taxable, kundi exempt. Kasi ang binilhan mo ng stock ay domestic corporation. No, siyempre, pagka mga foreign corporation yan, matataksa na rin yan. Okay? So, ano pa ang kanilang, kasi ito sa tax treatment, di ba? We'll not discuss this one. We'll have just a scenario, Philippine scenario. And, iyan, ni-remind tayo na ito, common stock sinabi. But actually, ano ba yung mga stocks na pwede nating i-issue? Pwede siyang preferred, okay? And pwede siyang common. Now, ang preferred stockholder ay pwede nyo tawaging fixed income. Yung talagang sinasabing residual owner, yung nagbumili ng common stockholder. Common stockholder, sila yung may voting rights. Okay? Pag preferred stockholder, kaya yung tinawag na preferred, they have preference over income sa kay common stockholder. Okay? So, dalawang klase ang stock na pwede nating i-issue. Ano na uli ito? Si preferred at ano yung susunod? Si common. Si common ang tinatawag na residual owners or residual interest. No? Okay. If that's the nature, then what else can we expect? Yan. Sinasabi that if what you will buy is a common stock, who can buy? Pwede siyang mga private investors. No? O pwede rin namang publicly owned. No? So anyone can buy. And at pag sinabing privately owned, ito yung hindi siya traded. No? Bakit? Kita nyo, requires firm's consent. This one is a two-party system. Pag sinabi kasing publicly owned, this one is a three-party system. It happens in the, saan? Broker or dealer markets. Okay? Sa atin, ano yun? It is actually registered, diba? And sold in the Philippine Stock Exchange. Okay? So, pwedeng privately or publicly owned ang, or rather, publicly traded ang common stock. Now, what is the, mukhang hanggang ano lang tayo, hanggang learning goal number 1 tayo, no? Nag-start naman na tayo sa learning goal number 2. But it's almost 30 minutes, so I will, after this, I'll be stopping the video and have another set. Okay? Now, when you say par value, this is ayun, nakalagay, arbitrary value. This is set, no? With regards to knowing the legal capital of the organization, no? And ito, nakalagay dito for legal purposes. What if so ganun pala yun. Pag nag-issue ako ng stock, pwedeng with par or no par. Pag no par, magkakaroon ng stated value. Okay? But normally, may par value halos lahat ang stocks. Okay? What else? That if you are the owner of common stock, you have the right to maintain, no, your proportionate interest in the firm. Ibig sabihin, pag may bagong, pag merong bagong i-issue, you have the priority to buy, to maintain your interest in the firm. Kung halimbawa, 10% yung what you own in the firm. Pag mag-i-issue ng bagong share, hindi ba mababago itong proportionate share mo? So, may karapatan ka na preemptive. May karapatan ka na bumili, no? Prioritize ka in order to maintain yung 10%. Ano naman yung delusion of ownership? Hindi mo na-maintain yung ano mo. Itong 10%. Bumaba. Yan. At syempre, dahil bumaba yung fractional ownership interest mo, di syempre, mababawasan din yung fractional claim mo sa earnings. Kung may mga i-distribute na income, katulad yan, dividend, yun lang naman ang dinidistribute yan. Okay? What else can we look into? Ito, para daw ma-maintain mo, yan, you have rights. Binibigyan ka ng stock rights for you to be able to exercise your preemptive right. And besides, ano pa daw yan, sa panuto ng firm na nag-i-issue. Mas mababa ang gagastusin mo. Siyempre may mga gastos yan pagka nagbebenta ka. No? Mas mababa pagka ang ibibigay mo ay rights offering para nang sa ganon magkaroon ka ng infuse or meron kang supply of funds. Okay? Kasi yun naman ang rason, 'di ba? Kaya natin pinag-uusapan yung issuance ng stock at ng debt kasi kailangan natin ng supply of funds. So, na-protectionan pa natin yung shareholders doon sa kanyang proportionate interest. No? Kasi pag stock yan, pag nag-issue ka ng stock, pag common stock, your priority is control. Secondary yung earnings. Pag preferred stock yung binili mo, ang priority mo, earnings. Okay? What else? This one are the status of share. What are the status of share? It will start with, okay? It will start with authorized, then it will be issued, unissued, then this issued can be in the treasury or outstanding. Okay? Ano ang ibig sabihin ng issued? Binenta mo na. Pag unissued, ibibenta mo pa lang. Okay? Pag sinabing treasury na ibenta mo, na ibinalik sa'yo. Okay? Pag outstanding, ito yung in the hands of the stockholder. So, ibig palang sabihin, pag outstanding, in good terms ka dun sa karelasyon mo. Pag treasury, ito yung ibinalik sa may-ari. No? Para lang yun sa karelasyon. Diba? O pag treasury, ay wala na, hindi na kayo. Ibinalik na yan. No? Pero pwede mo uling, kasi kita mo, diba? Pwede mo anong option mo dito sa treasury, i-retire mo, pwede namang mapunta rin siya saan issued. Okay? Yan, na-repurchase by the firm ang treasury stock. Kaya nga binalik sa nag-issue, sa nagbenta. O, diba? Okay. So, what else? If these are the status, alam mo naman kung ano ibig sabihin ng status, diba? Married, ganyan. O, ito yung sample ng stockholders equity. Okay? Kailan nagkakaroon ng paid-in capital? Pag halimbawa, ang par value 10 pesos na ibenta mo ng 12 pesos. O yung 2 pesos, yun yung paid-in capital. Okay? Retained earnings will be coming from accumulated net income. No? And every time that there is a repurchase of stock, you need to appropriate a retained earnings, no? And it would actually be reducing your retained earnings. Okay? So, the portion of the common stock that we have here, this will be the par value. And any excess in par, this will be the paid-in capital. Okay? When you, these two line item will form part of your contributed capital. Your common stock only will be equal to your legal capital. Okay? So, do remember that if you are the common stockholder, you can vote. Kaya nga ang sabi ay you can control, no? Because you can actually vote. But there is a proxy statement of which the stockholder may transfer, no? Yung or not necessarily transfer, but he can ask someone to represent himself when there is a need to vote. Okay, so that's a proxy statement. Meron niyang form. Okay, so yung mga susunod nating video, we'll talk about the Philippine scenario, just like with the ban. And when you say proxy battle, that is those who are not the one involved in managing, no, the organization, they can have what they can do would be get a lot of proxy statement para they would be able to vote. Yun. Kakausapin mo lang dyan yung mga stockholder, yung gano'n, iipunin mo. Yan. Meron bang non-voting common stock? Not necessarily in the Philippines. So, but anyway, just for the sake of discussion, we have super voting shares and non-voting common stock. It's possible, no, with other firms, no. Now, this one would be talking about the type of dividends, and it can be cash, stock, or merchandise, no? Ito yung mga property dividends pagka sa merchandise. And kita niyo sabi dito, before dividends can be paid to common stockholder, dapat daw magbabayad muna sa kay preferred stockholder. Kasi nga, kaya nga siya tinawag na preferred. Preferred over income. Yun. Kasi kaya ka naman sa common stock kasi your focus is more on the control aspect. Being able to vote. Yan. Okay, so we'll discuss about other issues such as international stock issues when we go to the discussion of the market. No? So let me stop at this point. I'll continue in the next video, the other section of our learning goal. Thank you and good day. Keep safe.